Welcome, friends, to another DPZ show on the Sports Card Dad Network. Excited to have another conversation with everybody out there about sports cards, and I thank you for tuning in and giving some allowing me to indulge you on cards with your spare time, your precious spare time. I always want to make sure people understand that I'm very grateful for that. It should never be taken advantage of, and I really have a great time providing this kind of content on Dustin's channel. It's a lot of fun. I know the hobby space is in a transition, so to speak, but I still think there's a lot of wonderful things to look forward to in the hobby space, a lot of exciting things, a lot of neat things happening. But as usual, I want to focus on the collecting aspect of the hobby, and we're going to continue doing that today by talking about the most collectible players in the hobby, in my opinion. Again, my opinion. This doesn't mean it's gospel truth. It doesn't mean, what I have to say goes. It's just my opinion. I think we all have them, and that's okay. That's what's fun about these podcasts or these YouTube shows, is that we can talk about our opinions and share them, and we can have dialogue back and forth in the comment section. So as you will always know, the comment section is a place for you to correspond with each other, with me, with Dustin, about the most collectible players in the hobby today. So I will use Card Ladder as a source from the index standpoint of who's the most popular, and that's only one source. We're using Card Ladder. We're not using Market Movers. I don't subscribe to Market Movers, but I subscribe to Card Ladder. Nothing against Market Movers; it's a great product. I just a little more familiar with Card Ladder, so I'll use them. But using that data, we're using the data that they have with their indexes that gives us the number of cards, the market cap for every particular player, which sort of it will give you an idea of who is more sought after, in my opinion. The bigger sales for different cards per player, I think, suggests who long term is the player you're going to feel most comfortable spending money on. And if you want to collect the smaller stuff that's more affordable and more financially providential, great, do that. And those could be whatever, and that's fine. And I think everybody should be able to collect how they wish and do it how they want to do it. But I'm more speaking to okay, I'm gonna buy a bigger card. I'm gonna spend some money on a bigger card. And what goes into that thought process when I do it, and what goes into that thought process, I think, for most people when they discern whether or not they want to spend a bigger chunk of money on a card. I think that there's three things, in my opinion, that matter. It's the player and his relevance in the hobby long term. And if you think about long term, people get confused when they think about long term. They think about, okay, 100 years from now. I don't think we're going to care 100 years from now what a card's going to be worth. We're not going to be here. I mean, it's good to think about your passing stuff down to your children from a legacy standpoint, but let's just talk about, within our lifetimes, who's going to be relevant, right? And a lot of people make the argument, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, are these people going to be relevant? These players going to be relevant later on? Well, I think in our lifetime, they will always be, because they're relevant to us right now. I think our generation, in that 35 to 45 generation right there, I think are going to appreciate, recognize, and desire Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, that vintage era, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. Those players are still going to matter, in my opinion. You can go into basketball with Wilt Chamberlain and whatnot. So with that being said, I think that market still stays pretty strong. And I think if you think about our timeline, our lifetime, when we're going to be collecting, holding these cards, potentially selling them within our lifetime or handing them down, the provenance is going to be there for those particular cards. So I think it's the player. The second thing I would factor in is I like to look at the market cap. How popular is the card, or how popular is the set? How popular is that particular, the grade or the provenance behind the actual card you're buying? Is it an important card? Is a desired set? Is it in a on-demand type of set? People sometimes get obscurity and rarity sort of mixed. I know I have. If you're collecting a card and you're going deep, meaning you're not going horizontal on a player or on different players, 1-2 cards per player, important cards per player that you like, versus going real deep on a player. Like, say, what I've done with Ken Griffey Jr., I've gone real deep. So I've got some cards that are very obscure that'll be very important and popular to Ken Griffey Jr. collectors. Because after like the 89 Upper Deck and a couple of other cards that are popular, that are no people know about, that would want, it starts to get like, you start digging deeper into that. You go deeper and deeper into the collector provenance and importance and desirability, and that just keeps going deeper. And you're only going to have that collector base that's going to care about those cards. Outside of that top level, like, it's like an iceberg. You got a little tip of the iceberg. That's the 89 Upper Deck. That's a few of these cards. And then you go deeper below that, it starts to become more, the collector base of that card is going to desire those cards. So if you're thinking about buying a card that's below the surface of the iceberg, right, you really want to make sure the collector base of that card is strong too, right? So, and that means the set matters, the grade, and depending on the condition of that particular set and that particular card, is it a condition sensitive card, those kind of things. You want to factor all those things in. And those things are going to be important. I think I'm mixing number 2 and number 3 together here when I talk about the collector base, because the collector base is the last one I would look at. The collector base kind of works together. They all three work together. The provenance, the player, is he going to matter down the road? Is there a strong collector base demand for that particular player? And is that card and that set important for that particular player, but not too obscure, not too rare, because there's very rare cards that nobody really knows about except for those really hardcore collectors. I would be cautious about buying a card unless you're really, really wanting to dig in deep with a player. I'd be cautious about buying a card that is very obscure, and it really matters just to that particular collector base. It could be really fun, but keep in mind, if you ever had to sell it or had to move it, and let's face it, as collectors, we're always moving cards and selling cards. I mean, it's everybody says, I'm going to have this forever and I'm going to hold on to it forever. But a lot of us don't. We change our minds. We get excited about another card. We want to consolidate to get a really great card for that one PC player we have. That happens. It just happens. It doesn't matter what our intentions are. It happens. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. I think a lot of people have opinions on that. I don't. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have any problem with it. Honestly, it keeps the hobby alive and well. It keeps these cards circulating into other hands. Because sometimes when you make that move and sell that card, it lands in a collector's hands that's always wanted that card. So maybe they would want it way more than you would, and maybe they would never sell it. So that's important. Another thing to factor in is sort of like an honorable mention piece, is how often these cards come up for sale. If you're looking at a particular card that rarely comes up for sale, that could be a good and bad thing. If it's not very liquid, and it's because a collector really wants to keep it, there's not very many of them, that could be a really great thing. But it could also be a negative thing because people just don't know about the card because it's so obscure. Kind of going back to that obscurity argument. It can still be a very popular, in-demand card, but if nobody ever really sees it and people stop talking about it, it's like that tree falling in the woods when no one's there to hear it fall, right? It doesn't make a sound. You kind of go down that path. Like, okay, is this going to be so rare that eventually it just will dissipate and people won't really understand, and there'll be a handful of people that remember how important it is. The card's got to matter, right? The card's got to matter. Let's just leave it at that. It has to matter, in my opinion, when you want to spend some money on a card. It has to matter. It could be a card you want to flex, a card you want to show off, that you feel is going to have provenance down the road and now and today. So it had it before, now, and in the future. So that's important stuff. But yeah, it's the rarity of the card, how often it comes up, can be a good and a bad thing. So you got to factor that in. I know there's a lot of things to think about, but I think that's what kind of makes it exciting when you're hunting, when you're thinking about maybe starting a PC of a new player, or when you're adding to the card, the PC you currently have, or you're thinking about coloring up to a big card for a player. And right now, I think there's a lot of people are selling, but I think there are some people that are going, hey, I might have a chance to get into a big card right now. And so there are probably some people thinking, hey, maybe this is the time. Maybe in the next 6 months, I might, save up or sell a few cards to buy that card I've always wanted, because now it's within reach. And maybe this is a timely conversation to have. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's okay. It's still fun to talk about it. If you think about the rarity of that card and how often it comes up, are these cards being held by collectors? I think that's a good sign too. So another positive to a card not coming up very often is collectors want to keep it. because you'll go through that whole process, that discernment when you look at your and take inventory on your collection of cards and go, I really want to get this card, but I'm going to have to sell this card to get it. Now, if I sell this particular card, and Lord knows I've changed my mind 1,000 times on selling cards. I feel like I do it daily. I look at that card and I go, will I ever get it back? If I sell this card, will I get it back? There's like 2 of them that I know. And maybe there's 3 people I know that have raw copies. But am I going to get it back? I don't know. I don't think I will. I think once this leaves my hands, it's gone forever. That factors into my decision on whether or not I want to move a card. So sometimes you don't want to sell that card. And I think that if people think that way about a lot of these cards that other people are desiring, that's a good sign. That's a sign that that card matters enough to where you'd rather keep it instead of moving it to either consolidate, whatever. It's more important than cash even to keep it, so you know you'll keep you won't lose it forever. Now, forever is a long word. That's a pretty extreme, but let's face it, some of these cards that are extremely rare, if they're a real strong collector, they're probably not going to sell it. They're going to keep it. So it's important to factor that in. If there's cards like that, if you start getting into the market and realizing, hey, some of these cards aren't selling, why? Ask yourself why. Start talking to different people within the PC community, the collectors of that particular player, as to why. Why does this card not sell very often? Maybe it's just because, it doesn't matter. But the player is not really important enough. No one really bothered to collect it. So there's just not very many copies of it out there. That could be the case too. But if you're picking players that matter, and just focus on, if you're going to spend big money, we're focusing on the players that are a little bit more popular, more relevant within the hobby space, more relevant within society. If you're picking those type of players and you get a card that you don't see very often, I think it's a good sign in essence. So, but be very cautious as to why. So I'm going to segue into looking at some of these indexes with Card Ladder. And if we look at right now, Michael Jordan leads the way. There's no surprise there. He's got 1,777 cards, total market cap of $723 million. Mickey Mantle follows behind that. LeBron James, Willie Mays, Babe Ruth. Nothing about this top 5 surprises me. Tom Brady actually surprises me. 500 cards, $153 million. Now, I might get some arguments in the comment section. He is a very popular player. He's an incredible athlete. That's his stats, his stat line, his accolades are second to none. But will this guy be as collectible as, say, Mickey Mantle, LeBron James, Michael Jordan down the road, Babe Ruth? Is he going to be that type of player? Tell me in the comment section below whether you believe he belongs in that category. I think some people might say he does. Some people might say he doesn't. But I don't know. It's questionable for me. I think he's, long term, he's more decorated than Ken Griffey Jr. Is he more relevant than Ken Griffey Jr.? Will he be more relevant than Ken Griffey Jr. down the road? I don't know. Maybe he'll be the same. TV shows, commercials, involved in the game after the fact. I'm using that as an example because I'm very familiar with Ken Griffey Jr. But Willie Mays, you don't hear about Willie Mays that much. He's just a vintage player. He's one of the best baseball players to ever live. But, his market, does he have big collector bases? A lot of his cards, his playing day cards are all, it's into the vintage market where he just had one card. So it's interesting looking at some of these players like the Mickey Mantles and the Babe Ruths. They're almost art pieces. They're almost museum pieces. They're cards. They don't have a ton of them, 124, 544, but the ones they do have sell for quite a bit. So Michael Jordan, we know there's probably quite a few of the cards that have sold. You got $1.3 million, the PMG green. You got the BGS 10 Fleer rookie for $945, almost $1 million, $700 for $250,000 for the SGC 10 pristine 86 Fleer. So the top, we got 2 of the top 3 are just the 86 Fleer variations of grade. The Exquisite 03, 89 star, 84 star, 97. This is the PMG red. So we're about $500,000, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. That's strong. It goes without saying. We almost don't even need to click on Michael Jordan. We all kind of understand he's kind of the white whale when it comes to the hobby. If you look at Mickey Mantle, in my opinion, you almost want to look at these cards though. And then these are just This is all within a couple years, 2 or 3 years. 52 tops, 53 tops, 51 Bowman, 52 tops still yet. It's within 3 cards that are all selling near $1 million. You get to 1969 tops. It looks like there's some sort of air card here in the PSA 9 that sells for quite a bit. But look at all these. I mean, these are just base cards in the vintage market that are selling for so much money. You almost want to make a vintage category when it comes to most collectible. You could put Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, and you could put a lot of those players in there because they have these single cards from single sets in various grades that sell for so much money. So it becomes sort of challenging to kind of go, okay, top 5. I don't know if I would just take one of those players. You might want to just group them together as the vintage group, right? Ted Williams. You got Charizard. I'm not a TCG guy, so I won't speak to Charizard much, but obviously it's very popular. Kobe Bryant, a lot of cards. Obviously a Kobe guy. We've got about how many do we have here? His stats, 1,000, a little over 1,000 cards. He has got, handful of cards selling in 6 figures. Only one card selling in close to selling to, I think that's calmed down now. But again, Kobe Bryant is popular, but if you look at him compared to the vintage and some of the Michael Jordan sales, I mean, it's not even close. And then going back again, let's look at Tom Brady in comparison, since he's up here so high. $153 million index. That's strong. So Brady, yeah, again, he's more like Kobe. You got one big card that sells, and then you got a handful of cards that are in the triple digits or the 6-digit number, but nothing like your vintage players, your Michael Jordans, and your LeBron James. LeBron James has a handful of cards that have sold 3.5 million, 1.9 million, 1.62 million. You got 3 cards that have sold over $1 million. This is probably this rookie patch. This could have been, during, stronger times, might have been $1 million card too. So LeBron James has got a very strong repertoire of cards here as well. So if you really boil it down, I guess if I'm looking at the most collectible players, the players that matter the most, I would look at Michael Jordan, I'd look at Mickey Mantle, LeBron James, but I would almost factor in, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron. You can kind of throw all those players in the same bucket, and it just sort of kind of goes down from there. There's a big drop off, in my opinion, around Kobe Bryant, Jackie Robinson. Jackie doesn't have that many cards, but you kind of have this top tier, and after that, it just drops. So there's two takeaways from this, in my opinion. You can collect a few of the players here, but it's really hard to get into some of these cards that matter. People that want to buy the cards that matter of Jordan, Mantle, James, Mays, Ruth, Brady, even Kobe Bryant and Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron, those are going to cost you so much money. You're going to be just trying to get in. Barrier of entry is strong. But if you want to collect someone that matters, that's more relevant, but still attainable to get some of those cards, you have to go way further down this list, right? And it gets really tricky. And then it factors in, is it a player that you care about, a player that mattered to you when you were younger? Stuff like that factors in. So it's hard to play in this pool. This is the deep end of the pool with some of these players and these indexes. But it kind of shows you who the most collectible players are. What the players that have the most cards selling for the most money, which means that's people are willing to risk that much for that player, and that particular card really strengthens their market, strengthens their collector, the security and the safe. Not someone call it safety, but the comfort in spending a good amount of money on a card of a player. And those are the players that seem to kind of carry that weight. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share some of that with everybody today. I also think about when you're starting a PC, focusing in on the cards that are popular and in demand for that particular player, even for, more, not as, Hall of Fame, top 20, basketball players, baseball players, football players. You can still get into some pretty cool cards at a good price point and put together a small PC, which is what I like to do. I don't know if I want to go too deep and just have a ton of cards. I like to pick 3 or 4 or 5 really good cards of that player And that's sort of my exposure to that player is 3 or 4 or 5 cards. That's the way I do it. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way. That's the way I try to do it. I got 3 Kobe's that I really feel good about. I have about 8 or 9 or 10 Griffeys that I feel really good about. Obviously, that's my bigger concentration. And recently, I've gotten into David Robinson, a player that I was really into when I was a kid. That's kind of a recent venture exploring his. I got a couple of his cards that are important cards, and I want to keep adding to that. But I want to be very careful and mindful of the others I add. I want them to be important cards. I'd rather have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of the cards that are sought after in demand than have just a ton of them. And everybody collects different, so there's nothing wrong with having more. Anyway, that's all I got for today. I thought it'd be kind of a fun little quick episode talking through the most collectible players. And again, I guess the way and looking at how you buy into particular players, what to think about, what to, the due diligence you want to perform. There's nothing better. And I'll say this again, the hobby family taking away, there's been a lot, there's always drama in the hobby. There's people talking, there's all kinds of stuff always going on, but refocus your energy back towards the awesome collector community we have, the great hobby community we have. There's a lot of really great people that are willing to do anything to help you understand and learn about a card, a player, a set. Lots of great people. You got Adam Gray putting out a lot of great stuff out there, constantly talking about all the different the sets and players and cards. I know he's talking about cards that are being sold, but there's lots of nuggets of information there you can take away. Great stuff. You've got, all this informative stuff coming out. We got the Collector's Grail series that's just going to continue. We're going to talk about a lot of these really important cards for these important players. That's fun. Talk to a collector, ask a question. That's how I've learned. I've asked questions from collectors that really understand and know the markets and the players and the cards. Great way to learn about the hobby. And everybody's willing and eager to share. You'll never have someone send you more DMs when you ask a question about, what about this card? What's important about this card? If you were to give me 3 cards that are important for this player, what would they be? Everybody's excited to share, myself included. When someone asks me about Griffey, I get excited. It's fun because we're passionate about that player. And there's a lot of collectors of different players that are very passionate about the player they collect. It's a great way to learn about them. So, take advantage of that. Plus, it also encourages more positive dialogue amongst one another in the hobby. Not so much worrying about what I don't have, but excited about what someone else has and learning about why it's important to them so that you can learn about what's going to be more important to you down the road and how you curate your collection. These are all really fun little things that you can do to make the hobby experience more enjoyable and build community with one another. Going past just the cards and caring personally about one another and wanting each other to do well, and try to ignore all the stuff that's going on and focus on some of the positive things that are going on. Again, not condoning bad behavior, but focus your lens on the good people in the hobby that you're dialoguing with and learning from, and stay right there, hang out there. That's a great place to be. It's fun, it's exciting. And it's a nurturing place to be from the hobby perspective. So always, that's the best way to learn about any player in any market. Cajun and Chris Hoge are great with Jordan. They know so much about Michael Jordan. Spinatron and Adam Gray have a ton of knowledge on Kobe Bryant. Cage is, Cage Lawyer, great resource when it comes to like 80s baseball and vintage like Babe Ruth and that kind of stuff. And Mickey Mantle, he understands that. So you can learn from all these different people, take advantage of it. There's a lot, and just so many more people I can mention that are, great. Obviously Josh at Cardboard Chronicles with LeBron. If you want to learn about prospecting on Bowman Chrome stuff, you got Daddy Rips, you got Filmington, very smart guys. Just there are people in the hobby can help you and understand and learn about the segments of the hobby they're passionate about those segments. So I highly recommend reaching out to those folks if you want to learn more about it. And there's many, many more I don't know, and I'm sure you'll find them as well. Anyway, have a great rest of your day. Have a great Thanksgiving. I hope this is going to be launching probably on Saturday. So I hope you had a great Thanksgiving and you had a great time with your family. Cherish that time. Enjoy it. Pray over what you got. Enjoy what you got as well, and be happy and grateful. And take care of one another out there. Be happy. Be positive, like Dustin always says, and let's be good to one another. Take care. Like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you think. Am I off base? I don't know, but let's have fun. Let's talk about it. Take care.